Hello everyone, and welcome to After Alexander. Episode 85, Antiochus the Young King. If you think back across the many episodes we've had together, there have only been two instances of non-ruling Seleucids getting their own nickname in a title. The first was Seleucus the Young King, son of Antiochus I, all the way back in episode 30. The second, as an alternative title, was Antiochus the Unfortunate, the son of Antiochus II and Berenike Syra, and by extension the grandson of Ptolemy II of Egypt. In his case, this alternative title was for episode 48. If you remember back to either of those episodes, you'll remember that it wasn't exactly for the best reason from a reign perspective that the names were included in the title. Very final in a sense. With that in mind, let's see how all of this pans out for Antiochus the Young King. We've spent a fair bit of time with him up until now, but there isn't that much to say about him. He was born in about 221 BCE, the eldest son and heir of Antiochus III by his wife Laodike III. The news of his birth, as we've seen before, made the minister Hermias less cautious about the life of the king. As we've covered previously, Hermias had been reluctant for Antiochus III to deal with problems such as Molon in person. Once Antiochus Jr. was born, Hermias started wondering if he might not become the all-powerful regent to the infant Antiochus IV if Antiochus Sr. were to die on campaign. As a result, he began encouraging the king to campaign in person. I'll leave a reference to Bevan and Polybius in the show notes, given that they were the ones accompanying us on this part of the journey. In 210 BCE, when he was about 11 years old, Antiochus Jr. was made co-monarch of the Seleucid Empire ahead of his father heading out east on campaign. This was a precedent established by previous Seleucid monarchs. In the case of the king dying on campaign, there would be another king ready to step into his shoes. Seleucus I had made his son Antiochus I co-king in the east, as had Antiochus I with his own son Seleucus the Young King. What I find interesting is that I don't remember seeing a specific allusion to Antiochus Jr.'s domain, as it were, being specific to any one region. He just appears to be co-king over the entire empire. Antiochus Jr. would subsequently be part of the Battle of Panium against Egyptian forces in 200 BCE, and would in fact be successful, putting the Ptolemaic cavalry to flight and attacking the Egyptian rear with his own horsemen. As we discussed in episode 84, Antiochus was married to his sister Laodike. We gave her a birth date of about 219 BCE, which would make her about 2 years younger than her brother. If true, these birth years would have made them about 25 and 23 years old respectively when they married in 196 BCE. The point is, brother and sister were now married, just as the old Persian monarchs had done, and as the Ptolemies were now enthusiastically imitating. The two would have a daughter called Nyssa, born sometime between 196 and 193 BCE. Let's assume a roughly median date for now and say 195 BCE. If our birth date was correct, Laodike Jr., her mother, would have been about 24 at the time. Now, Wikipedia lists a rather puzzling fact that Antiochus was officially made heir to the throne in 196 BCE, but this seems dubious to me. The link they cite for this, a Livius webpage, doesn't actually appear to lead to anything, which sets alarm bells ringing in my head. Added to that, Edwin Bevan, who is usually very faithful to ancient sources like Polybius in my experience, doesn't mention it either. It would certainly seem odd and indeed a bit redundant for a co-king to be confirmed again years later. I'm not entirely sure whether this happened or what it means if so for now we're just going to move on. What we do know is that Antiochus the Young King received Hannibal, yes that Hannibal, at his court in Antioch at Daphne when the latter showed up either the same year as the king's wedding or the year after, so 196 or 195. Granted, Hannibal would move on from there to the court of the elder Antiochus at Ephesus, but it's interesting that the younger man met such a famous name from Roman history. Father and son would both travel across the Taurus Mountains to Ephesus in 192 BCE, which I'm sure is part of a story that we'll come back to later in more detail. For now, I will admit that I am cherry-picking any information about Antiochus the Young King Bevan has for me, so this event is unmoored from its context at the moment, and you may feel a bit disoriented. However, Antiochus III was looking to shore up Seleucid power in Anatolia across the Taurus at the time. So, the picture we've got is a son who is trusted by his father and who has been co-king for almost 20 years. It's all looking very encouraging. So now, like when a person removes a brick from a Jenga tower, let's bring the whole thing crashing down. In 193 BCE, or I suppose 192 BCE if you're Edwin Bevan, Antiochus the Young King died. Bevan gives him a co-rule of 17 years, and our chronology gives him an age of about 28 or so at the time of his death. Rumours immediately abounded that Antiochus Jr. had been poisoned. Some said that Antiochus Sr. had grown jealous of how popular his son was becoming, or else that he liked his second son Seleucus better. We have seen in the past that Seleucid kings have cut down threats to their own power. See episode 30 and Seleucus the Young King for details. In addition, there is precedent in ancient sources for people to be accused of poisoning those in the way of their own success, such as Tacitus accusing Empress Livia of poisoning multiple heirs to the throne to ensure Tiberius would make his way onto said throne. Incidentally, if you want a modern retelling or reimagining of this, I would refer you to Robert Graves' I Claudius. All of this said, Antiochus is recorded to have shut himself away from the public when news reached him, and the whole court went into mourning. Personally, I find it unlikely that the elder Antiochus was involved. Would a father who was about to poison his son go on campaign with him, as we've seen above? No, I find random chance death more likely. In any case, the heir to the throne was gone. The new heir was Prince Seleucus, the future Seleucus IV. We've previously given Prince Seleucus a birth date of 218 BCE, so he was about 25/26 when he became the new heir to the throne. He also inherited his brother's wife, the future Queen Laodicea IV. Their son Demetrius I was born in 185 BCE, as well as a son Antiochus in 180 and a daughter Laodicea V at an unknown date. So, that's Antiochus the Young King gone. We haven't spent long with him, but it's interesting to get at least a little glimpse of a family dynamic when discussing him. Next time, however, it's back to our narrative. Until then, thank you all very much for listening. Feel free to get in touch with the show's email address for any questions or comments. Until next time, have a great week, everyone.